In the previous chapter, biological classification, we have completed 3 kingdoms, that is kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista and kingdom Fungi. Now we are going to do the 4th kingdom, that is kingdom Plantae, for which we have a separate chapter only altogether. And for kingdom Animalia as well, there is yet another chapter. So this is the 4th kingdom that we are doing in 5 kingdom classification. The new chapter, kingdom Plantae or plant kingdom. So this chapter is about studying the 5 divisions of kingdom Plantae, that is algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. But before we start with the 5 divisions, there is a small topic that we need to cover. Let us look at it. Systems of classification. Classification of plants started from very early on. People like Aristotle, Linnaeus started the earlier attempts at classification. So the classification that was carried out for plants from earlier times is divided into 3 systems. Let us look at them one by one. Artificial system of classification. Proponents of this include people like Aristotle. This was the earliest system of classification. Few external morphological characters were used. For example, you know how Aristotle had divided the plants, on the basis of height, herbs, shrubs and trees. Do you think that was a correct thing to do? Okay, maybe at that time wherein you could not look into the insides of the plant tissues, there was no microscopes available at that time. We did not have the technology to analyze the chemicals, etc. So only the external morphological features were considered for classification purposes. But there are some drawbacks of this system. For example, there are many genera whose species may be of different heights. One may be a herb, one may be a shrub, one may be a tree. But just on the basis of their external morphological character, Aristotle would have separated these closely related species and placed them with other similar heighted counterparts. So this became the drawback of using only external morphological characteristics. Few external morphological characters were used. For example, vegetative characters like height, number, color, shape of leaves. Vegetative characters means root, shoot and leaf. Habitat was used for classification. Habit and habitat. Reproductive characters were also used. Reproductive characters includes flowers and its characteristics. For example, androecium, gynoecium. These are the reproductive characters. Drawbacks. Separated, closely related species. Reproductive characters are also called sexual characters. The second drawback was that equal weightage was given to vegetative and sexual characters. The difference between vegetative and sexual characters is that vegetative characters tend to change quickly with changes in external environment, and sexual characters are very stable over the years. These characters tend to change very quickly and these characters tend to be very stable over a period of time. And for artificial system of classification, both vegetative and sexual characters were given equal importance. That became the drawback. However, Linnaeus in the later years, he deduced the sexual system of classification, in which he considered the sexual characters only and divided the plants into different families. The families that were made by Linnaeus using this system in artificial system of classification are still studied. He put together, in fact, closely related species by studying the sexual characters of plants. Linnaeus deduced which one? Sexual system of classification, in which he used androecium characters. Androecium means what? Stamens. He used stamen characters to deduce the sexual system of classification, which was very modern within the artificial system of classification. So this was the earliest system of classification. Why is it called as the artificial system of classification? Because it was more on the man's perspective rather than what is actually there. So because of so many drawbacks of the artificial system of classification, next came the natural system of classification, in which external plus internal characteristics of the organisms were considered for their classification. For example, the cell ultrastructure, the chemical constituents, the embryology of organisms, etc. The proponents of this one were George Bentham and Joseph Hooker. Bentham and Hooker classification, also it is called. The features of this was natural affinities between organisms were considered. Important sentence from NCERT, natural affinities. Affinities means closeness between organisms were considered. External plus internal characters were considered. For example, ultrastructure, embryology, anatomy, phytochemistry are considered for classification purposes. Since there was a focus on the external plus internal features of the organism, the closely related organisms that were distantly placed then started coming back together, and also distantly related organisms which were placed together under one category then started moving out. The natural closeness between organisms was considered. Natural affinities between organisms was considered for this. So then came the third system of classification, that is phylogenetic system of classification. In the phylogenetic system of classification, fossils started playing an important role in deducing the relationships between organisms. For example, there is a category reptiles, there is a category aves, but then you discover a fossil called Archaeopteryx. Have you heard of Archaeopteryx? It has features of a reptile as well as a bird. Okay, so what can you infer from this fossil? That reptiles and birds may have evolved from a common ancestor like Archaeopteryx. So they are more closely related to each other than to other classes. So the natural system of classification even more advanced with the application and use of fossils. That system of classification wherein fossils play an important role is called as the phylogenetic system of classification. Evolutionary relationships between organisms considered, fossils play an important role in deducing evolutionary relationships. Organisms belonging to the same taxa have a common ancestor. By far this is the most advanced and used as of today phylogenetic system of classification, wherein fossils are used for deducing the evolutionary relationships between organisms.
महादेव के नाम पे सब्सक्राइब कर दें।